Now I'm going to do some caulking. I've done a lot in this house, but I'm going to do a little touch-up. But I want to explain the technique and why we do what we do from what I learned as 2 years as an apprentice. And I am a PhD in caulking. The first thing that you want to get is what's called a no-drip gun. Okay, they're, I don't know, $7 or $8, but after you pull the handle, it won't keep dripping out of the end. That's why it's called a no-drip gun. And you want one with a pin on the end, because some of these adhesives, you can use concrete adhesive over here, or some of the more expensive caulk will have a seal right in there, and you'll have to pop it. No, normally not on caulk, but anyway, let's go over the basics here, and then I'll go over the form and function. There are three kinds of caulk that I know of. There is your super cheap, which is 35 years, supposedly. I don't think anyone's ever checked. Alright, there is your standard, which is 55 years or 60 years or whatever. And then there is your most expensive caulk in the world. Well, not exactly. But this caulk, Big Stretch, is supposed to, you're supposed to be able to put in like 1.5 inches of it and it'll still work. What caulk needs to do is expand and contract in whatever you're putting it in. It's a real art to put it in, but I'm going to show you the technique how a craftsman does it. Because if you see how a painter uses a caulking gun, if they know what they're doing, caulking, they're a damn good painter. There's very few that take the time to do it. But like as I say, learn what you can from the videos. Okay, if you don't believe me, then go look on some other videos and see if they tell you the same thing. Usually my advice is, if 3 people tell you the same thing, it's probably the truth. Anyway, this is about $1.50, and there's nothing wrong with it. This is DAP. This is about $2.50, and this is about $5. The difference between this one and this one is the amount of water in it. Okay, caulk is water soluble. Now, this cheap one is actually a lot harder to use because of the water. You have to, water is not thick, so it's very hard to use this one unless you know what you're doing. Now, this here is middle of the road, and it's a good caulk. And I'm not showing you the names just to show you the names. This one is clear right here. And one thing about clear caulk, now I have to state this, it will go on pure white and then it will dry clear. We use it around windows and things that you can't use white on. You can use any color you want, but you probably paint. The reason that we caulk, now we're going through the motions here of why we do what we do. But if you'll notice up here, and I haven't caulked it all in, okay, but you'll notice that in this garage I have caulked all kinds of stuff in, okay, even on the baseboards. The reason for that is a house is like a leaky ship when you're talking about heat loss. Every little crack you'll lose heat and you'll lose cooling. Therefore, the caulk, when you put the caulk on, what it does is it will save you 20% in your heating bills. Now here's another example over here. This trim, and we caulk in all the trim, is caulked in up here, and it was done in the winter and it cracked. This one is done okay, but you want it totally smooth because any imperfections, well, that's interior, that's a whole nother video. exterior and interior work is totally different. But you can see all the caulking down here. And when you have a caulking down there, no cold air draft can get in or get out. And of course I caulked in all these things and they cracked out a little bit, but it was cold. Anyway, back to the technique. You get a no drip gun. Okay, and I want to show you this. See if we can do this. This is very important. Okay, most guys know how to do it just by learning, but cutting it open is an art. Depends on what you're using it on. Generally, you cut it open the same way every time, and you don't go too big or too small. But let's see if I can do this here. Let's see. Yeah. There's the tip right there. You take your knife, okay, and you use an angle, but you don't cut way down here. You cut near the top, okay? Just cut that bitch. And then if you'll notice, this is a textbook way to do it. If you'll notice that it's thicker up here than down here. All right? So in order to do the caulking right, I mean, by the textbook, you take your little knife and you shave off a little here and a little there. Pretty soon it's second nature. Okay? Now that may be a little small for what I'm doing, but if you're doing really tight inside work, then that's what you probably need. If you're doing outside work, then this is probably, on this big stretch, this is probably more appropriate depending on the project, but there's not too much to cut. Now why we do this is there's a reason for that. As we're going through technique, in order to be good at caulking, you just have to understand how it's done. And I spent 2 years learning. I was very good and I got better. You always want to have, caulk is water soluble, and we're over here. You always want to have a bucket and a rag within hand's reach of what you're doing. Now we take the caulking gun here. We'll use this cheap caulk, doesn't matter. It's not cheap. It's 40. I don't know. It's good. It's good caulk, but there's different degrees of it. I would suggest to anyone that is learning, and remember how we learn. It's practice, practice, practice. Now, if you'll notice, the caulking that's done in here that was done last winter, it was done in the cold and it has not fared well. But if you'll notice how neat it is, okay, and how smooth it is. It's very smooth. If I were to paint this, which I'm not going to, then it wouldn't show. But in order to caulk correctly, we have to know how the physics of a caulking gun work. And I'm going to find a place here and do that. Let's do it. Let's do it right here, for instance. Right here. Right here. Now, what you want to do is you want to hold the caulking gun 45 degrees from the area. And all you want to do is you do not want to push. You do not want to push. All you want to do is pull the trigger and let the caulk come down. Okay? Like that. Now you can get too much or too little caulk. You have to hit the right sweet spot. Now like you said, you have a bucket of water with you. Most people paint in the summer. So they need to do this quickly. It takes practice. You take your finger, usually your index finger, and you put it at a 45-degree angle. And you pull down. Okay? If for some reason your finger leaves the surface, do not put it back on, because this is what happens. Okay, what you do is you have your water over here, which is supposed to be right next to me, but it's not because I'm an old idiot. Okay, and a little water doesn't hurt at all. Then you come back up where you want this smooth, very smooth right here. So you got a little water on your hands, you come back 45-degree angle, and you pull down. You want just enough caulk that it's like a wave. It runs in front of your hand, runs in front of your finger, but it doesn't go over your finger. It doesn't go here or over the edge. Now, like I said, it takes practice. I know it's maybe kind of boring, but it's technique. And you can see right here where it's nice and smooth. Now, if I had two hands, I'd take a little rag and wipe this off with water. But the point is, on your outside caulking is something important. People don't look at the outside caulking. But on the inside, where people live, especially women, and if you're caulking in trim, and all the new houses have trim on them. Some of the new houses, a lot of them have 8 or 9 inch trim. That's what we use cashmere on. But we have to caulk this side and this side, and you can always put too much on it. So that's another video on how to do that. But after you've gotten the caulk where you want it, and it's nice and smooth, you see this area right here, that's going to show. You see it's already dried. So, and this is probably already dried, which is, I'll just cut it off with a knife. But you want to have your caulking look like this. Feel nice and smooth. Okay? You can use too little caulk or too much caulk. You have to find that sweet spot, which, as I say, takes practice. Now watch this. Watch this. Here. Watch. Okay, you see that giant glob? Now I want to show you something. If this were in a crack or something else, this giant glob, I want you to watch my finger. Okay? Now, as 45-degree angle, you pull down. Now, do you see how the caulk is coming out on the left and the right side? Do you see that? Okay, that's not what you want. Okay, you pull your hand away, dunk it in the water. So that's too much caulk. What you want is just enough caulk that stays under your finger like a wave. So now do you see the line there? That's way too much caulk too. See? Now watch. Now my hands are wet. It's water soluble, right? Okay. I know it's maybe boring, but you go down the edge right here. 45-degree angle. You see how smooth that is? You have to use just enough caulk, but not too much. And like I said, it takes practice. But there is no textbooks that show you how to do it. You have to learn from an old painter. You have to learn from someone that studies technique even before they even pick up caulk. And I must say that now you've learned how to cut the angle. You can cut too much too, so cut smaller amounts. And you can, now you've seen what the ordinary, the very expensive, this is supposed to be going like mayonnaise. And it says new improved formula. You know, with all this, everything going on with the economy, I just think they've added more water to it, which pisses me off, because it used to be really, really good. And you can get it in all different colors. But caulking is an art if you practice. Remember, 45-degree angle on the gun. Okay? 45 degrees from whatever you're doing. And you lay the caulk in there. You do not push on the gun. You just bring it all the way down. Pretty soon you'll hit a sweet spot, which is, well, you do that. Then you come down and you do this. Okay, and this is a pretty good job right here. That's how you want it to look. on your outside or your inside. And I'll go over that more. And I just want to teach this because my health isn't that good.